Sorry about being a few minutes late. My name is Charles Lewis, and I'm Vice President, like Phil said, of U.S. Stroke Coalition, but I also am a survivor. I'd like to spend just a few minutes, talk about myself, and I am going to read this also, so if you excuse me. Um, I received my MBE as a friend of mine and a fellow survivor stated, and I'll get to what that MBE means in a minute. 52, and I was 42 when it happened. I had some factors. I had uncontrollable blood pressure. Also, my ethnicity plays a role in it also. And then I did not know about the uh, weak blood vessel in my head, which it was also facilitated as it broke because of my uncontrolled blood pressure. Um, let's see. At that time, I had the worst headache of my life. I thought I was having a heart attack, but that was the blood filling up in between my brain and my cranium. Um, when it happened, I had just started working for UPS. I had just got insurance like a month beforehand, which I was very blessed for because I got really good care. But at the time, I didn't know the difference between a stroke and a heart attack, and I thought I was having a heart attack. So that I'll get to as far as lack of understanding and awareness also. Um, I knew I knew it was on borrowed time, but me being the man, I didn't want to go to the doctor or anything, and I didn't want to spend the money because again, I didn't have insurance. So at the time when I drove myself to the hospital, my blood pressure was at 190 over 160, and at that I had a stroke, and what happened? I had a subneuractic hemorrhage, which is classic way for saying I had a bleed. So um, it took up the top 2/3 of the left hemisphere of my brain. Doctor said I should not be here now. I'm very blessed to be here. I was sent after I spent about 2 months in the hospital total or went to Aurora. Then I went to Swedish, and then I went to SCCI, which is a subacute care unit. Then I went to In and Out Rehabilitation at Spalding. So it was a pretty interesting change of events, so to speak. When I was at home, the walls were starting to close in on me, and knew I had to get out and do something. So I started looking for stuff to do. I started volunteering. I started going to support groups, and then I started volunteering, and that's pretty much where I'm at now. So that's uh, and then I started going to support groups, and I noticed the lack of understanding as far as what a stroke really is. And I heard and I also do health fairs, and I got a lot of information about. I asked them, do they know what a stroke is? And they're like, well, no. Then they started giving me symptoms of a heart attack. I was like, well, that's not good information. So it being 80% preventable, and the fact that there wasn't a lot of information out there, it's like, okay. So me and some friends got together, and we formed this coalition to try to educate more so than anything, because there is a lack of knowledge out there. So, and with that, we can go right on. Startling facts about stroke. I was doing research. Stroke happens every 40 seconds, and I noticed the colors. I got where it says startling facts. I got as close to yellow as I could, because yellow to me is suddenness. A stroke is a sudden, like a lightning bolt. The red, it depicts the emergency of it. So with yellow, suddenness, red being emergency. Stroke happens about 40 seconds, and one person every 4 minutes dies from one, and I should be one of those people that have died. Blacks are twice as likely to have a stroke than any other ethnic group, and I did find out that women are 60% more likely to have it than men. So like I said, I do health fairs. People talk about what is a stroke, and they think heart attack, but no, stroke is a brain attack. Even though it's in the same circulatory system, it is different. One is in your head, one is in your heart. There are two main types of strokes. One is a blockage, and the other is a bleed. I had the bleed. Either type is a thief. To me, the onset of a stroke, what happens is it robs you of your normal blood flow. So whether it be a stroke, caused by a blockage or stroke caused by a bleed, that normal blood flow has been cut off. To me, it's a thief. The most common types are TIAs or mini stroke called transient ischemic attacks. They are unfortunately a possibility of a larger stroke down the road. No one knows that time frame, but it is unfortunately a warning sign that something may happen further down the road. They add up to about 80% of the strokes, which, I'm the part of the 13, which is the hemorrhagic, which is less common type. The what happens with the ischemic stroke, you don't feel the signs per se when you do have like the warning signs, and it'll cut off the blood flow. Usually it'll happen for a minute. You may feel some type of interruption somewhere where that blood has blocked from the brain. So it may, thus the term transient, it's on the move. So, and that everybody can see what's going on. Okay. So a TIA usually happens, like I said, somewhere in the brain. It becomes blocked for just a short period of time and then moves on. There are usually no long-term effects from it, but again, it shouldn't be ignored. And it's, like I said, that's just going on. Embolic stroke. I don't know if you guys remember Serena Williams or anything like that. She had a pulmonary embolism, which was blood vessels or clots in her lungs. So a clot may or could have went from her lung to her brain, causing a stroke. So that's why they were kind of worried about her not playing anymore, stuff like that. So, and then you could read a thrombotic stroke. It's a clot that it doesn't travel, but it forms inside and causes blood to stop going to wherever blood vessel it decides it wants to block. This is the more deadly kind. So if you've ever heard of anybody ever having a stroke or dying from one, this is the kind of stroke they had, and this is the kind of stroke I had. It was caused by a blood vessel that broke in my head, and what happened was I had the worst headache of my life. And what that was the blood filling up, like I said, between my brain and the cranium. And I shouldn't be here now talking to you because it took up the top 2/3 of the left hemisphere of my brain. So mine was caused and was facilitated by, as you see, high blood pressure, because I was on blood pressure medication, but at the time I didn't have a doctor. So I was on what they call filler medication from the hospital. And they said that what I was going to do at the time that I had the worst headache, I was going to go downstairs and go to sleep. And the doctors would have said, they said if I would have did that, I would have bled out and died. So I drove myself to the hospital, which is not advisable. So if you do think you're having a stroke, I'm breaking off, do call 911, because there are things that when the paramedic gets there and they think you are having a stroke, there are things that they can do in the ambulance and also on the way, letting the hospital know to take you straight through to their stroke protocol people. So what are the signs of a stroke? Again, like I used to do health fair, I still do them. And when I ask them, do you know the signs and symptoms of a stroke? The first thing they will say is, oh, it's a chest pain. That's a heart attack. And which is, everybody knows the heart attack, the signs and symptoms of a heart attack. That's what we're trying to do and let you know about. There are differences in the two, even though they're in the same circulatory system. As you see on there, they say, should you give them an aspirin? I know I skipped over one of the signs of a stroke compared with the signs of a heart attack, and I kind of touched on it briefly. Now, should you give them an aspirin? That is a no, because of this. Aspirin thins your blood. If they would have gave me an aspirin without doing a CT scan to see exactly what type of stroke I had, that would have just facilitated me to bleed out more, and I could have died from there. So, and then what should you do? Again, if you think somebody is having a stroke, do not drive them to the hospital. Call 911 and let the paramedics do what they do. The acronym FAST. There's a few that aren't on here, like mine, which was the worst headache of my life. What I've found out in my research is these are the most common ones that they do. So again, if you see somebody that, their face is drooping, you want to ask them, you want to take notice first of the time and then ask them to stick out their arms, like Frankenstein. And if they see one arm drift down, uh, lower than the other, then you might want to ask them to say a sentence that would be intelligible. And then if they say it garbled, again, note the time, call 911, because time equals brain cells. Every second that blood is lost from the brain, an astronomical amount of brain cells die. So again, call the paramedic or call 911, let the paramedics know what time it started, because there is a window of time for the clot busting drug on the end called TPA that they say it's 3 hours. I've heard 4, I've heard 5. I tend to stick to the 3 just to make sure, because I am getting different numbers and stuff. So if it's more, fine. I stick with the less, gives them more time. 80% of strokes can be prevented. The information just needs to get out to the public. But there are things that you also can do for yourself to lower your blood pressure. Stress, diet, things like that. Know your numbers. Again, a stroke is a brain attack, and it happens in the brain and not the heart. And there's where the 1.9 million brain cells die each minute. That's why time is very critical. Get them, call the ambulance, and let them know approximately what time it happened so they can start their stroke protocol and hopefully get you some type of help. Lifestyle changes. Oh, these are fun, aren't they? I have problems with these myself. I do know my blood pressure. I have a monitor at home, and I would suggest, if you can, do pick up a monitor at home or for home. But you can always check them in a supermarket. They're free. I know some of the high blood pressure medication may have an adverse effect on some men's libido. Thus, they won't take it. That's a bad mistake. Please take your medication. Because like they say, high blood pressure is a silent killer. It is not a cause of a stroke, but it is a factor. So definitely know your numbers. And, if they are high, check with your doctor and see what you can do to lower them. These are continued. This is the top one I have a problem with. If you're overweight, try to lose weight. Well, again, like I said, that's easier said than done. And trust me, your joints will thank you. I have bad knees, and I was just this morning I went to have them injected, and I've lost a little bit of weight, and the weight off my knees and my back, they're thanking me. So very much I appreciate it. Bless you. If you quit smoke, I know some survivors that still smoke. They'll think you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I wish I could help people stop smoking cigarettes. If you do drink, do it in moderation. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but again, if you deprive yourself, you're going to binge. That's just my attitude. That's just what I think. So, I mean, if you do it, that's fine. It's a glass of beer, wine. They say a glass of red wine can help lower blood pressure. I'm not sure how true that is, but, that's what they say. I know mixed drinks, whatever you do that's wrong, do it in moderation. I'm not saying don't do it, because I'm not a doctor to tell you what to do. And alcohol can have some adverse effects with medication, because I know hopefully everybody that does get medication reads the warning labels on the sides or the pieces of paper that they give you to say, this, what is it that drugs or drinking alcohol could intensify, so yeah.
Enhance the effects.
Yeah. Know your cholesterol numbers. This is really important because if you notice where it says the fatty buildup of plaque in the blood, that's the stuff that breaks off and travels to the brain and the arteries. So I have good cholesterol, but I take my medication just in case because I don't want to have another one of these strokes. So I know my LDL and LDL, my HDL and my LDLs are like 30. So I mean, even my doctor is kind of mad at my cholesterol, but I know that I don't want to have another one of these strokes, and if I can control these things that I can't control, I'll be okay. So um, you can control it by medication, the food you eat. Um, there's one thing, choose your plate, choose my plate. It's a good place to go. It's online. It helps you choose the right type of foods to, help you maintain and lower your cholesterol weight also. So it's pretty good. Daily exercise can help. Well, I just get exercise by walking. But they say if you can, it helps. 30 minutes or 5 times a week or more. Um, if you have a partner, or husband, wife, dog, something, get out and do something. I tell people, I volunteer on a helpline, and I tell them, when they feel like they're closing, I tell them just go outside. And if it's sunny, just let's let the sun hit your face. That may help you to get out and get motivated to get out and get physical. So I know exercise can be boring. Maybe I don't know if there's silver sneakers for people who are on Medicare. I know there's places like you can go to rec centers and stuff. Look around and see what's out there. Easter Seals is a good place that you can go to. But definitely look around and see what's out there for you to go out and try to get some exercise. And again, if you can find somebody to do it with, it's just that much better. I'm still looking for that person to do it with, but who am I? Now, change what you eat. The salt. There are a lot of other things and other ways that you can flavor your food by not having salt. I was pre-diabetic, and I know there's ways, there's things, there's flavors that you can use where you don't have to eat the salt. I know salt's good, but that will also help you lower your blood pressure and lower your just blood pressure. Try eating a balanced diet each day. Like I said, Choose My Plate is a pretty good place to go to get ideas of what to pair with foods. I think it's 30, 30, 30, 40 or something. It's changed. So it's 30, 30, 40. Okay, yeah. Try to limit, well, here it says try to limit the amount of protein, but the jury, like I said, the jury is still out on eggs, milk, butter. Again, with the alcohol, it's the same with this type of stuff. It's in moderation. Don't overdo it. But again, the jury is still out. I was doing some pre-diabetic meals, and one menu had like 6 eggs. So that's what I said. So, again, also a good thing to do is check with your doctor, see if you have any circulatory problems. One thing they can do is carotid Doppler is what it is. It's like an ultrasound. And what they'll do is they'll put a little gel on your neck, and they will run the Doppler back and forth across your neck to see if your carotids are, excuse me, carotids are clear or how much plaque there's built up in there. But it doesn't hurt. I would definitely have that done. And also they can do the same procedure checking your heart. So it is definitely a good idea to have those checked if you can. Because like I said, the fatty deposits in either the carotids or whatever, that's not something you want to do, because if your carotids get clogged, that could be a problem. In closing, there are some things that you can't do to prevent a stroke. Stroke is hereditary. Um, and race also, blacks are among the highest ethnic race as far as stroke. Change your diet as best you can. Again, exercise as best you can, and definitely know your numbers. It will help you in the long run to try to stave off a stroke, because like I said, it is preventable. So And do remember to reduce stroke. I put that in red also because it is an emergency. If someone you know or you, I hope no one ever has one of these. The fact that it is reducible and it is preventable, that's one message that we'd really like to try to get across. So definitely do reduce stroke. And if you feel compelled to, we do take checks, money orders, and anything. Anything is appreciative. We are a young company. We just became 501c3 certified in August of last year. So what we're doing now is we're trying to go to, there's a couple of underserved markets. We'd like to try to go into schools because grandparents are, if not have, also become the new babysitter. So it's important that the children know the signs and symptoms of a stroke. Also, churches. What we're doing now is we're getting a letter of introduction together to go into churches to try to, let them also know that it is preventable. A lot of black churches especially, because that's more underserved public or underserved population that I feel. So those are two things that we're going for. This is an acronym that everybody hopefully will know because it's easy, fast. Again, if you see somebody's face droop on one side, notice that, go over there and ask them to stick their arms out like Frankenstein. And if one drifts lower, ask them to repeat a simple sentence. And if it does sound slurred, again, note the time, call 911, let the paramedics come and do what they do. So they may be able to save more brain matter if somebody's having a stroke.
Well, thanks, Charles. During this process that you've gone through where you've formed U.S. Stroke Coalition, and what has been the biggest challenge you've had as an individual stroke survivor?
As far as personally?
Yeah, personally.
Understanding, like I'm sitting here and no one will know that I have a stroke. I tell people it's the hidden things that you don't see that's the problem. Some of the things I have a problem with, unfortunately, is getting up and going to the bathroom. And I know that's, sorry, but that's something, because of my gait patterns different, I think, well, now I have to get up and that's just going to cause more aches and pains in my joints. And because I have arthritis also, that's having fun with this also.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. When you are out educating the community, what's the one thing that surprises you the most when you're just doing the education piece of it that you hear people say?
Still the fact of how people are comparing strokes to heart attacks. That's never, I'm not amazed, but I am a little bit. So
okay.
I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing health fairs for about 7 years or so. It's gotten better, but I still, more so than not, the signs and symptoms and chest pain. So, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I'm going to open it up to the our listeners out there, folks that are on this session. If you have any questions, you can speak up now, or you can type it into the chat box, and I can ask Charles the question. Okay. Doesn't sound like we have any questions. So just so everybody knows, this presentation was recorded today. So if you didn't get a chance to catch a portion of it, or you'd like to review it with, your caregiver or a client or a friend or a community member, we will have this available out on our YouTube channel. That will also have the link accessed through our website at www.peoplecarehs.com. I want to thank Charles for coming in today and sharing his thoughts on stroke and giving us some insight on U.S. stroke. Again, you'll see on the screen there the website for the U.S. stroke is www.usstroke.org. Again, thanks again, Charles, and everybody have a great day.